Hi, hello. Welcome to my video. I've been waiting for a particular type of night, like a nice moonlit night, full moon, like I'm having tonight, to start telling this story because I think it'll give the proper mood. It's maybe a little spooky. We'll see. But actually, I don't know if that's enough light. So let me just turn another light on. Well, let me turn on more light in here. Russia, then and now. Okay, well, maybe this will be a little bit better. Maybe you can uh, see me a little bit better anyhow. So I'm going to talk about shopping in Russia, and particularly as part of my Russia Then and Now series. I'm going to start out by speaking about shopping in Russia like 23 years ago. The whole process of food shopping has changed a lot since I first arrived here more than 23 years ago. And I have to say that apart from the prices, of course, all of the aspects of shopping have changed, well, definitely for the better. First, a word to my Russian viewers. You will be offended by some of the following things I have to say about Russian shopping years ago, particularly about shopping in outdoor markets. But hey, you got to bear in mind that sometimes a little humor, or if you present things in a humorous way, it can sometimes make a boring topic a little more interesting for people. So I think that's what I'm doing. When I first arrived, there were from few to no supermarkets in Chelyabinsk, where I first lived. And you need to remember that this is a city of more than 1 million people. There were a ton of what they call produkty shops, small shops, like nowadays what you would call like a Pyaterichka or a Magnet produkty, only produkty shops are much smaller. Anyhow, they were typically very small shops with about maybe 20% of the products found at a typical 7-Eleven back in the States. And for those of you that don't know, 7-Eleven is just a chain of very small neighborhood markets in America. The only thing that these Russian markets had a large selection of was alcohol. They had everything. And the second thing that they had a lot of was food that you would eat while you're drinking alcohol. I actually found it a little depressing, but anyhow. Many people did their shopping at outdoor markets. For the foreigners who may be listening to this, I need you to give you a reality check though. If your idea of an outdoor market is one where the person who grew or raised the food is there proudly selling the fruits of their labor, you're thinking of someplace else, perhaps. Maybe you're thinking about a Norman Rockwell painting you once saw in a book. Here at that time, an outdoor market, in my opinion, was more aptly described as a rather dirty place where angry people buy products from angry, rude sellers. A place where cars are not allowed, but if you don't watch out, you might get run over by a car. Let's get back to the outdoor market. There, people will actually wait in a line. They'll form a line outside what they call the kiosk, outside the window. You don't ask who's last, you see who's last, because it's a line as I imagine a line is. So you get in the line. And remember, you're going to get in the line at maybe 6 different places when you go and do your food shopping at these outdoor markets. What I used to hate, you'd be waiting in a line and somebody, usually an old grandmother, would walk up and go near the front of the line and just pretend that she's looking at the products that they're selling, or pretend that she's looking at the prices. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention, at these booths, you just look at things under glass. You don't touch them, you can't feel them, you can't do anything. They have just samples of it under glass, except for like fruit and vegetables. There you can handle and choose. So that person, this is usually an old grandmother, gets near the front of the line and pretends they're looking at prices. Next thing you know, they're kind of sidling into the line there. They're cutting ahead, which creates stress and anger with everyone else in the line, and it happens all the time. They think they're very clever when they do it, but they're not clever. They're just very annoying. And you may go through this 6 different times as you're shopping that day at this outdoor market. Finally, you get to the front of the line, and so you're the next person that the worker's going to wait on. And they don't greet you with a nice smile, like, hi, how are you? What would you like? Anything else? They just say one word usually. They'll say, what? Or they might say, what do you need? But very rudely. These are not nice people, I don't find. So you tell them what you need. And then you have a bag where they put the things in the bag. They didn't give you a bag back then. Saving bags and everything and rewashing them so you could reuse bags. It was like part of your day 23 years ago, trust me. They tell you how much it is, and you better have the exact change. You don't give them like a 500 ruble note and expect to get change. No, you need the exact change. Some of these people were so bad that they would not even sell you the products if you didn't have the exact change. I'm telling you, terrible salespeople, just in general, terrible people. This is my vision, this is my memory of shopping at the outdoor markets back in the early 2000s. After I was in the country for several years, one of the numerous economic crises hit in Russia. And very often when an economic crisis hits in Russia, I don't know how to say this, but the foreigners are to blame. In this case here, they wanted to pass a law where no foreigner could work in an outdoor market as a seller. They could own it. They could own the booth, but they had to hire a Russian person to be the seller itself. Because I guess the thought was in the Duma that these foreigners are coming there and taking all these great jobs selling vegetables and bread in the outdoor markets. Here's where I'm going to get the native Russians pissed off. But hey, the native Russians usually they hired because it was hard to find anybody. This is not like something you want to do. All my life I've wanted to sell carrots at the outdoor market. No. It'd be the same thing as in America, finding a native-born American who wants to go in the fields and pick lettuce all day in the hot sun. You just don't find it. And if you do, that person is probably quite the loser. What was the same here? So these people took it to a new degree of I don't give a crapness about what you want or anything. The rudeness went through the roof. When I was here a little bit longer, I don't know how long, it was, maybe 6-7 years, some Western style supermarkets began to open in Chelyabinsk. And now I'm a person who believes in small businesses, and I believe in doing my part to support small businesses and buy things from them. But I got to be honest with you. In this case, I've just got to say I eagerly awaited the day that these businesses, these big supermarkets, crushed these outdoor markets, and those things just like a roach, and those things just scattered and were no longer, because my experiences there, none of them were good. I can't have, and trust me, romantic thought of an outdoor market is not what you would experience here. That's not what I experienced. Well, anyhow, I did say that I would probably manage to piss everybody off here, so I've got the foreigners who work at outdoor markets angry, the native Russians angry. Well, I'm going to continue on. The law finally went away. I guess the economy must have gotten a little bit better. The law went away, and they stopped with this thing where foreigners weren't allowed. So once again, the foreigners were manning the stations here at the outdoor market. And for things like vegetables and fruit, the vegetables and fruit at the outdoor markets were much better than what you got at the supermarket, and they were cheaper besides. So I used to go to the outdoor market, and we still do for vegetables and fruit sometimes, especially fruit. But every year, what I used to do around September when the price of tomatoes were very cheap, and peppers when they were very cheap. I would go there and buy tomatoes, peppers, onions, and some other things, because I used to make a big, huge batches of salsa and huge batches of just spaghetti sauce. And I mean, I'd buy like 30 kilos of tomatoes and this and that. I just made big, big batches. Special spices, but they're all freshly grown. And what was kind of cool is with the foreigners is they were very curious about, because they'd see these different spices and these ingredients I'd be buying, and they were very curious of what I was making, because these were a combination of things that most native Russians just didn't buy, but these foreigners did. So I would tell them, and you have some conversations. It was kind of fun. And even with the foreigners back there, you had to watch your change. You know, when you buy something, you have to count your change carefully and compute it in your head, make sure that they weren't shortchanging you. It's a cultural thing. If they put the fruit in the bag, you had to watch very carefully, because what might happen is they'll take the bruised fruit or whatever and put that near the bottom of the bag and then fill it up with good things, layer the bad things in there. You get home and you say, oh, what the hell? But here's the difference. I could go back the next day even and say, listen, you gave me these bruised ones and they're no good. They'd exchange them. They give me good ones. So it's just a cultural thing. So as I say, my wife and I still continue to go to the Reenac for different things. Let's say fruit and vegetables mainly. You can get a better deal. They're fresher. They're just much better quality than what I get at a supermarket. At the supermarket, they're presented much nicer, but they don't taste as good. That's all I can say. It's very hard during even peach season to buy a nice fresh peach at the supermarket. You see them, they look beautiful, perfect, unblemished, wonderful, but they don't taste that good, and they're hard, So that's one thing, the fruit and vegetables. But another thing I get at the outdoor market is I get fresh, raw cow milk, because I like to make cheese. Specifically, I make cheddar cheese. I make it about 3 or 4 times a year. Each time I make cheddar cheese, I need about 12 liters of fresh, raw cow milk. And I can only get that at the outdoor market, and really only on a Saturday morning. So when I make cheese, it's off to the outdoor market to get my 12 liters of, and the same thing, these people are usually asking what I'm using it for, because it's a large quantity, and I tell them. It's kind of fun. They're curious. They're humans too. Now, although I talk about these markets in a negative manner, and there's a lot negative about them, even now. I mean, just trying to park and everything. You have to park so far away, you walk, it's crowded, it's crazy. I don't enjoy it. But they do serve a real good purpose. I mean, you see here, well, let's say in the West, you go to a farmer's market, and the prices are actually higher than they are at a supermarket, because it's all nice fresh goods and this and that and everything else. Here, the opposite is true. It's cheaper at these outdoor markets. And that's a good thing, because a lot of pensioners, they have a very fixed budget, fixed income, and this allows them to get a better quality of food for the same amount of money. So when I say I hate these outdoor markets, I don't really mean that I wish they didn't exist. I'm glad they do exist for several different reasons. To service people without a lot of money who can't afford a supermarket, that's a really good reason to exist. Now, some of the more unusual sights that you might see, well, perhaps not in the outdoor market, but yeah, in the outdoor market, in the vicinity anyhow, are these small Russian cars filled to overflowing with some kind of produce. I mean, watermelons or apples, the whole inside of the car full. And then up on the roof, everything is full. Layer after layer after layer, and maybe a small trailer also full. That's, the person doesn't own a truck, so that's their truck for bringing their fruits and vegetables to the place. And the other thing I see unusual is in the meat departments, the meat areas. You want to buy some meat? They're always, they they don't use like a bandsaw to trim the meat. They don't use a bone saw to cut it. No, they use a hatchet. Waka. Granted, it's a sharp hatchet, but it's a hatchet. And it leaves little bone slivers in the meat. But hey, that's all I've ever seen in an outdoor market is hatchets. So that's something a little unusual for me.
You know what a hatchet is, don't you, Bug?
It's an axe?
Sort of, yeah. I got one in the car if you'd like to see it.
A pass.
Fair enough. I like to carry it, you know. You never know when you're gonna need it. Here it is. Come on over. Come on, I want to show it to you. Maybe later. Okay.
The food shopping situation has improved dramatically, actually, over the intervening years since I first arrived. Whereas when I first arrived, I really only had the choice of shopping at an outdoor market. Well, now there's a ton of large supermarkets in every city and outside of cities in Russia. Some are large international markets, supermarkets, and others are homegrown Russian supermarkets. Now, my report now on modern Russian supermarkets will be no means complete, but there is a YouTube channel. It's done by a Australian guy named Russell, and it's called Traveling with Russell, and he does a lot of supermarket tours and a lot of content about shopping in Russia, and I think his is a really good channel for any information about shopping in Russia. I'll put a link to his channel down below in the comments so you can check it out yourself. These days we do our shopping at Asan. Asan is a large international supermarket. It's actually French. And yes, it's still here and it's still doing business. Back in 2022, when so many Western companies left Russia, Asan made the decision to stay, and it wasn't just because of profits by any means. It was because they felt they owed that to their many employees throughout Russia who helped grow their company here. They also felt they owed it to their customer base, which helped them grow large within Russia. And you know what? I think it was a brave decision, and I'm glad they did it. Thank you, Asan. Now, some of the video that's either playing now or will be playing was taken in Asan, I guess, actually, back in the year 2020. So you'll see different face masks on many people. What a horrible memory that is. It's one I hope never comes back again. I don't know what else to say about modern Russian grocery stores. I mean, if you've been in supermarkets in the West, you've been in a Russian supermarket, that's all. And it's very easy to shop in a Russian supermarket. You can go there with zero language skills. I mean, you're taking all your own goods off the shelf, putting them in your cart. You go up to the register, it's just like in the West. You don't need to understand anything. You can read the numbers on the register, pay for your stuff, and leave. That's all. Didn't have to know any Russian at all, and you didn't go hungry. Wonderful. A lot different than going to an outdoor market, trust me. When I first arrived in Russia, the beef was terrible. I mean, it was basically inedible. I couldn't eat it. When I would travel back to the States, when I first came here for a visit every 2-3 years, one of the first stops I would make would be to a good steakhouse where I'd have a nice, thick, juicy steak. And I looked so forward to that part of my trip. Now I don't have to do that anymore. Because within the first 10 years, when I first arrived here, a Russian agricultural company made a big decision. They obviously knew about Western beef, and they knew what Russian beef was like. They made the decision to bring Western beef to Russia. So what they did is they bought cattle. They bought certain types of cattle from Australia and from the United States. And they didn't just buy cattle. What they also did is they brought cowboys from both of these countries. And these cowboys worked with their Russian counterparts here, and they taught them everything about animal husbandry in terms of how they raise the beef, everything, what they feed them, every little thing. And they absorbed this information, and they now are the largest supplier of beef and pork, for that matter, in all of Russia. They have more than 1 million head of beef cattle right now. I mean, so they do a great job. We buy from them strip loin steak, and we buy ribeye steak. And strip loin and ribeye, if you buy a T-bone steak in America, you have the T. One side is strip loin, and the other side is the ribeye. So these two steaks are what constitutes a T-bone steak back in America. Simply delicious here, delicious. I don't get better when I go back to America. Now, rumor has it that this company was started up by either somebody or the family of somebody high up in the federal government here. But I'll be honest with you, I don't even care. They did a good job. They started this company from scratch. They did it right. They did it the exact right way. They didn't just go in and strip assets from a company to pull the money out and run away. No, they grew this company. They provided a product that was in demand, that people wanted, and now the people can get. It's a wonderful thought. I'm happy to see a Russian-founded company do well in the marketplace, especially when they're competing on the same rules and regulations as everybody else does. I'm happy to see it happen. And besides all that, they employ more than 32,000 people right here in Russia, actually in a region called Belgorod, which is about 250 miles south of me, or 400 kilometers. Oh, I forgot to tell you the name of the company. The name of the company is Miratorg. Miratorg. Mirotorg is how it looks in English. Well, there are lots of other things I could say about modern Russian supermarkets and shopping in Russia now, but there's about 4 million of these on YouTube already, of these videos with modern shopping, because it seems to be the obligatory video any foreigner that comes to Russia seems to post. I decided in this video I wanted to talk more about how things were 23 years ago when I came here, about the scary Russian market, scary to me. Well, anyhow, I hope I didn't offend any of you too much. Just telling you how it all looked and how it seemed from my side. I think that's maybe enough for this video. So until the next video, пока.